Good morning. Welcome to the meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority this Tuesday, September 10, 2024. Call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Shawnee.
Thrilled to be here.
Berg.
Aye.
Cochran.
Aye.
Beckman. Abacan.
Here. Approve the minutes of the regular meeting held August 24, 2024.
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approve the airport vouchers totaling $173,036.57.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve is second. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Shawnee.
Yes.
Berg.
Aye.
Cochran.
Aye.
Abacan.
Aye. Approve individual vouchers A through E.
Move to approve.
And a motion, and there's a second. Any discussion? Discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Shawnee.
Yes.
Berg.
Aye.
Cochran.
Aye.
Abacan.
All right. Number 5, approve the 2025 budget.
Tana's online. We revised the form as Mr. Cosgrove had requested, showing the increase or decrease from previous year in the right column. Couple of minor adjustments that we made is that 1954 investment group, they are not renewing their lease for 2025, so we reduced that by $14,000.
What was that, Sean?
The 1954 investment group, Men's Hair House, they lease space in the East Terminal building. They're not renewing their lease for 2025. They're in a month-to-month right now, and I think they plan to be out of that space by November 1st. The other change that we made was for the rental of the expansion area after you extended the farm leases, the increase with the beams and so forth, that went up by almost $100,000, that line item. The change in farm rent for the Beatons also triggers the change in farm rent for the Fargo Dome, the Park District, NDSU, and the city of Fargo for the parcels that they lease. What they do is they pay the average of all of the parcels, which is $195 an acre now, up from $148 an acre. Those are the primary changes. I don't know, Tana, if you've got anything else, or if any board members have any other questions.
No, everything else, I think, we noted in there. We went back to IndyFit and Pro Resources and had them double check to make sure that the COLA was 4.5, that they were accounting for 2 additional employees. And they did do some number changes. So we put those in the budget, and I believe they are highlighted in there. So we did go back and just make sure we had the salaries and the benefits all for the new positions, or, you know, the 2 new positions we hope to add, and the 4.5 COLA.
Mr. Chairman, Tana, interest revenue, we've got a drop there. We're dropping our balances. What interest rate are we anticipating receiving on funds?
We're anticipating, we did not change that from before, so we're still anticipating 3%. And it might be just a little bit low. I talked to First International Bank last week, because we're talking about investments coming due and reinvesting and interest rates, and they are saying that interest rates are going to start sliding. And so we have tied that interest rate revenue to 3%, and then also what we think our balances will be based on our cash forecast in our savings accounts at that time next year.
And what interest rate are we anticipating on any borrowing?
I'm sorry, what?
What interest rate are we anticipating if we're borrowing?
Right now, we're not anticipating borrowing anything in 2025.
Okay.
If we look at 2026, right now, revenue bonds are still slightly high. They're right around that 5.5, but that's based on today's rate. So hopefully they will come down, or hopefully come 2026, there will be other options with the Bank of North Dakota that would allow us to have a lower rate.
Any other discussion?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Shawnee, Berg.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye. Okay, number 6, receive update from TL Show Architects regarding the parking structure.
Just anywhere.
Good morning. Well, it's steady and she goes on the ramp. It's going well. We poured a bunch of concrete. I should say they poured a bunch of concrete. We're continuing to do the pile caps, and so we're still on track for precast on October 14th. There's a couple of updates, so we're working on the road and more about sequencing. So we're more likely going to be doing that road after the ramp is done because we're going to be using that property to finish stuff. So I think as soon as we get the north side of the ramp done, we'll be starting that road probably. The other thing, we originally thought that we could put the elevators and finishes in the elevator lobby of the ramp in a PFC type of, so we're going to put it with the skyway that went into the terminal. And Tom Schauer did some research on that and found out that the elevators and the finishes in the lobby can't be used for that. So we're going to be taking those, bidding those separately and introducing those as a change order to the ramp instead of a larger number for the skyway to the terminal. So it's just where we're moving funds to. So other than that, I don't really have anything else. We're working on the schedule of the skyway, and we got a couple of things to think through there. It's probably going to be later than sooner, just because of all the stuff we got to do in that road, and we'll have to look for opportunities in terms of where the terminal's at, what kind of issues we're going to have with that, and so we'll come back to you later with a more firm schedule on that.
Okay, Dr. Bashani.
Just two trivia questions, Terry, and what I'll call adults, the public transit entrance in and the windscreens. At what point will, if we were in the fortunate financial position to be able to pursue one or both, any guess of when the decision point would be?
I really don't. I think it's going to be more about where you guys sit financially and how you think you can do it or not. The windscreens are one thing. What was the other thing you?
The public transit, Uber line.
The road. Yeah. So we're kind of thinking the road almost has to happen to build the skyway with what we're going to disrupt. In front of the terminal to get foundations in.
Yeah.
So we almost feel like that's a necessity. Yeah.
And the windscreens could go on anytime.
Yeah, and they really could. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay, thank you.
And we'll end up, having a little bit of an experiment for the first winter because we'll have have pretty much most of the precast up by the end of January, early middle of February. So
thank you.
The only other thing I have that's related is Greg Pearson from SP Plus proposed to the board a new technology for the entrance of the parking ramp, which was Metropolis. That information isn't available yet. They're still working on putting the package together in terms of what that would cost to implement, as opposed to Flash, which we currently have in all of our ingress and egress points in the parking lot. So Joe's been, I think, put Flash on hold. Right now, they were the low bidder for the parking equipment, but because of this new technology, if the board is interested in that, we'll have to get information to Joe from McGough as soon as we can, so Flash knows what their status is. We're still going to have Flash equipment at all of the other lots that we're currently operating. It's just, does the board want to put this new technology in, the drive-in, drive-out technology, without really any equipment investments? So hopefully we'll have that information soon.
Dr. Bashani.
And personally, my answer would be yes to the last question, but do we have an obligation to Flash for the awarding of a bid?
I don't know, Joe, if you want to mention that they don't have a contract, however, in good faith, they are producing shop drawings and things for McGough, so they do have some cost into it.
Yeah, so we don't actually have a contract with them right now. It has not been executed, but like Sean said, in good faith, they've done some work and some shop drawings for us, and would have some overhead time. So in a good relationship, I would recommend that we probably pay them for the work that they've done, but we could. It would be a pretty clean cut and say,
Well, I think that'd be good if you went ahead and paid them.
what's that?
Well, I think that'd be good if you went ahead and paid them.
Yeah, we would need some funds from the airport to pay them. But yeah, they have done some work in the background, but it would be a clean, there's no contract. We wouldn't need to terminate them for convenience or anything like that. Just some invoice work, I would call it. But
And personally, I would agree. We have a responsibility there.
So more to follow on that when we get more information from SB Plus. So that's all I have.
Any other discussion? Discussion? Okay, that was information only. Number 7, received communication from Dr. Tom Nagel requesting assignment of the FDA hangar ground lease to Group 2 LLC.
So Dr. Nagel owns a hangar in our South General Aviation area. This hangar right here. And he has come to terms with a group, Hangar 2 LLC. Adam Stone Street is here today, along his partners are here, Mike Graham and Chris Schuler. So what Tom is requesting is an assignment of his lease to this new organization. Tom's lease expires with the board on December 31st of 2024. And then, of course, subsequent to it, the next item is, the request. You can kind of maybe take the 7 and 8 together. There's a request from Group 2 LLC, Adam Stone Street's the president, requesting a 20-year extension of that ground lease. Adam and I have spoken, and I said that what I would support to the board is a 1-year extension of the ground lease starting January 1st of 2025 through December 31st of 2025. And then the board could grant a longer extension of that lease, provided that the improvements are completed to the hangar as he's proposed in the drawing that is in your packet today. Adam mentioned that they may be financing a portion of the hangar, which this board has traditionally matched the term of their financing with the ground lease. If it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, we don't have the banking information yet and so forth. But I would recommend that, one, you approve the Tom Nagel assignment of lease, assuming that you're going to grant Mr. Stone Street and his partners a 1-year extension to the ground lease through 2025 in exchange for the improvements that they propose to make. And what would trigger the extension would be when a certificate of occupancy would be issued by the city for them to occupy the hangar. That would be my recommendation.
Discussion.
Well, Rick, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that someone's going to take a look at this, but this is kind of a critical location on the south part of the GA, and I think it would be important for us to know kind of what's being planned. Jim Roars has that unit next to there, and he's been kind of holding off. I think it would be good if those two people could visit. I saw the elevation, but that really doesn't tell us. I mean, that's someone put the elevation together. So I don't think, I guess from my perspective, I'm excited about improving this area and making it better, more attractive on the South GA, but I think we should get a little more information. So I'm fine with assigning the lease, which kind of is of little value if there's only 3 months left in that lease. I guess part of I think too, from a board standpoint, the reason we have these leases is when they come up, we want the buildings improved or to tie in with the new look of the airport. So I think, and I'm not sure if a 1-year lease does that. It's pretty hard to spend money on it. You have to spend the money first before you get the lease renewal, and I think we want to make sure that what's being done. A certificate of occupancy could be put on this building with very little work as well. So I just would like to, we can pass number 7, allowing the assignment of the lease from my perspective, but I think we should have more information on the renovations, maybe at our October meeting before we approve the 20-year or 1-year extension on it, would be my thought. What's the status with Roar's hangar?
I don't know. Adam probably knows. I think you guys have been working with them, correct?
Yeah.
Just Mike Graham, yes. Come up here. Mike Graham is also.
I'm Adam. Know some of you guys. So we are buying Dr. Nagel's hangar. the same architect that did the drawings, I'm assuming you guys have seen all that for Roar's hangar, is also going to, Nate with Goldmark, he's going to be doing a very, very similar style to the hangar that we're buying from Dr. Nagel. Mike Graham is one of the partners in there, and he's got a foothold in with Roar's, and so they're going to be very similar in how they look. But we just want to have time to do like a full architectural stuff. We're going to be putting quite a bit of money into this to make it look good. Dr. Nagel, there's a lot of moving parts, so that's why we're requesting right now is that 1 year extension with improvements completed upon good faith to get that 20-year possible, just from the timing aspect of it. But the people that are involved in it are very prominent business leaders in the community. Chris Schuler and Mike Graham are my partners on that, and I can assure you it will look good. So, is there any questions or?
I guess, Mr. Chairman, so you've got a lot of work that you need to do on this building, the architectural work and stuff before you start any work.
Correct. Yeah, we didn't want to rush anything through now that we're getting close to winter.
Probably start next spring.
Yeah, we'll start in the spring, but that'll give us time through the winter to, because Roar's, we'd like to talk with him and maybe make them look like they're connected or joined somehow, because I did see Roar's full plan set as well. And I think that it would be kind of silly of us to leave like a 1 or 2 foot gap in between the buildings. So that's something that we're going to discuss with Nate, the architect, when he does the designs, to see how that all looks. There'll still be 2 separate buildings.
But leave a gap between, well, sure.
Yeah, we need to discuss things like the fire blocking, and there's some architectural and fire safety considerations that we have to go through for that. All items I've looked into, I don't see any issues with. But we just want to make sure that it's got a nice cohesive look to it, as Rick mentioned.
Okay, Rick, Mr. Chairman, so I guess on number 7, I would move that we allow the transfer of the lease.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. A motion carried.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we table number 8 until our October meeting. So give them time to flesh out the site plan and how it's going to lay out. And so we can see that before we go forward.
Mike, okay, that's a motion.
Yeah.
Second.
Is there a second? And the motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Is there a way that we can, not saying that we're granting the 20-year, but we're getting ready to plunge probably over $1 million into this building. We just want to have some sort of good faith from the board. I've never dealt with you guys before. I'm sure you're all lovely people, but we just want to make sure that we're getting ready to do a serious commitment to the property here, and same for you guys with us. Is there any sort of way that, as long as you guys see some sort of satisfactory plan put together, and that'd be a full architectural set?
Yeah, so Adam, this is like the City Planning Commission and City Commission approving this.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
No, so that's kind of, this is the final approval of it. So
Okay,
what we're
gotcha.
looking for is a better idea of exactly what you're doing there,
Gotcha.
how it ties in with the other building type thing.
Right.
So I don't think that will hold you up at all.
Okay.
It's just getting these plans fleshed out. We're not asking for, full architectural plans, but we want to know what's going to be there when we approve it.
Nope, that makes sense.
Okay, and my question is, when you said you're going to have just a 1 to 2 foot gap, you're going to put a firewall on that one. Does Roar's have a firewall on his side?
And Rick, you might know better than I think that one of the buildings, I think Roar's building, is getting a CMU wall on that side, which does act as the assembly for that is a 1 hour. It's a thing that we need to look at, but we are keeping them as completely separate. I don't know if they're going to be connected or if he's going to keep it 10 feet off. That's what we'll have to
Yeah, I think the important thing is they coordinate all that stuff.
There's a lot of coordination
Right.
that'll have to go into that.
And we don't want to find out after things are built that you didn't do this and it's got to be done, so.
But I think, really, if you look at that whole area, the airport owns 2 hangars or 1 hangar there. Group 6 has a big hangar. And then they have some degree, I think long term, it would be nice to have large hangars all the way down that. So anyway.
Okay, very good. And there's a motion and a second on item number 8. Or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 9, receive update from Meeting Hunt regarding passenger terminal expansion modification project. Brandon.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Much like the parking ramp, you see a lot of foundation work still going on. It's a good thing. They've made a lot of progress, as you can see out there if you walk by the site. Exterior foundations are substantially in, and they're working on the inside foundations. They also started erecting precast already, as you can tell, and they're planning on being done with that by the end of September. Elevator core and stair 13 is completed. And then they're planning on having steel ready for installation middle of this month here, September 18th. So a lot happening. You're starting to see some progress on the superstructure as well. So exciting things.
Okay. Discussion. Any discussion? Okay, let's review the estimate cost for proposed baggage claim items and alternate seating option.
So we've also putting together pricing, just an update. I did receive pricing, initial pricing from the baggage claim improvements that we, when we walked through the baggage claim area with Paula a few weeks ago. So McGough did put some pricing together for that. Now we're just verifying that pricing covers everything, and we're breaking it out according in a way that so that we can disseminate the wrapping, the columns, the LED lighting, additional baggage cart storage, adding furniture, those sort of things. So very close. We'll have that by the October board meeting. And then along with the Arconis furniture with the double armrest that was also requested. We got the seating arrangement laid out, and now we have that, sent that over to Arconis to get pricing on that. So again, given the pace, I expect we'll have the price difference for that by the October meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? If not, we'll move on to number 10. Proposal Meeting Hunt associated with coordinated of exterior signage, branding, artwork, sponsorship, and advertising, and consider approval. That's Brandon again.
Hi again. So yeah, I put together you'll see it here. It should be in your board packet for the amenity services. We put together the proposal for this exterior signage, coordination wayfinding, with the coordination with sponsorship packages and artwork and advertising. This did take just to give you a little context. A lot of things to coordinate here. So it did take some time to make sure. We wanted to make sure that we weren't overlapping services between contracts you already have place with like Clear Channel and Flint Group, and then also make sure that there weren't any gaps between some of the other amenities. So the charge was to get a seamless oversight and assistance in facilitating all these and coordinating all these amenities. So it started out, we feel really good about this proposal and the numbers here. We've had multiple conversations with Flint Group Oland Artworks, and Clear Channel to make sure that we all have a clear direction on what our roles would be here. So, any questions on the proposal that we put together?
Discussion? Rick?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Brandon, I guess my question is, you're the owner's rep, and Gina's been in charge of design. And so when I look at $350,000 as a charge for this, I'm trying to figure out, where does the owner rep work stop, and what are we missing? And so part of my fear is, if we're really missing this huge gap here that's going to cost $350,000, where do we make the mistake earlier? So I guess my understanding is today where we're at. I think we had a good meeting with Clear Channel. I think that's kind of gotten sorted through. I think my understanding is Flint's interested in doing some of the sponsorships, and some of the art, I think really was part of probably Gina's interior look. So I think when I look at this, I think the one piece that still roots in my mind is just the whole the signage from 19th Avenue till someone steps on the plane. And I see that's still under your responsibility here. But am I missing something like?
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question, Rick. That I'll say you're absolutely right. Anything outside the terminal, excuse me, as part of this proposal. So from 19th Avenue, we'd be working with Indigo on the exterior on the monument sign, going down Dakota Drive and breaking off into the parking ramp, coordinating the exterior signage with the parking ramp, all the employee parking. It's your entire experience outside the building for signage and wayfinding. In addition to that, the artwork, that piece of it, and Sean had very similar questions regarding this. The artwork is almost a third of this proposal. So the artwork consulting is, I think, about 95,000, and then something that would need to be discussed is the budget that you would set aside for artwork. And in talking to Ivy, for something like this and what she's done at like Sioux Falls, I think she was looking at like a $400,000 budget for artwork. That should be in your board packet as well. She included a cover letter, kind of the context and how she came up with that. But that's a big portion of this proposal.
Discussion, Rick?
My other question would be, when do these decisions need to be made?
We have time on this. So I think, given I haven't really put a hard line on that, Rick, and I can go back with the team and McGuff and work that through. I know we have at least 3 or 4 months before we would want to make a decision on this and coordinate all this, but I can get you a hard date on that.
And Dr. Bashani?
Brandon, it strikes me that the signage issue is very different than the artwork issue, and perhaps we'd be better to separate these two topics so they can be handled appropriately, given that they probably are in much different timelines.
Yeah, we could certainly do that. I know originally the ask was to just have an umbrella overlooking and coordinating all this. So that was the approach of putting it all together, but we could certainly look at breaking it apart too, to tailor what what the priorities are for the board.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Brandon, I'm kind of in the same boat Rick is here. I'm trying to figure out if we hadn't gone down this path to look at this overall coordination, what would we have seen as part of the existing package? And then where does this, kind of step in and take over? That you would have had signage and wayfinding and everything as part of the original contract. And then the electronic or the monument mark or whatever you want to call it, that was already kind of broken off as a separate entity. We did an RFP for that. I think we actually selected a contractor there. So I'm kind of in that same boat as if we don't do this, what's it look like? And where does this take us from what was existing under the contract to now what's the new and additional work? That makes sense.
So, but the other piece of it is the sponsorship packages. So you will have a complete terminal. We have all the designs completed, for the play areas, for the sensory rooms. We did not do any of the signage outside of the terminal. So that is a component of this. The artwork we assumed, originally when we were going through the terminal, the artwork was a sponsor, was nonprofit. Artworks came in, we went through and did our programming exercise and listening sessions, and Artworks gave us the amount of space that they wanted to place artwork in, and that was it, and that was done. So this proposal brings on an artwork consultant and asks for a budget for artwork. So it puts a lot more effort on procuring and placing artwork in more areas throughout the terminal. So I think between the exterior signage, wayfinding, branding, also making sure that the brand is incorporated into all these elements too, the new logo and such. Between the exterior and the exterior signage, the sponsorship packages, and facilitating that effort, and the artwork. These are things that you can move forward with, but from what we've understood, if you drive down 19th Avenue, Dakota Drive, are your passengers getting where they need to go? Are you getting feedback that they would like a little more guidance? Those are things to consider because that right now is not in our scope of work for the terminal design and construction.
So Brandon, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but inside the terminal building, signage, that was all part of the original package. So this now extends that to the exterior from 19th Avenue to north into the terminal and everything in there.
Yes. So the drive and like directing to all the employee parking, long-term parking, the parking ramp that's going in, and then coordinating with Terry on the parking for the levels and the different excuse me guys, the different signs that you'd have at each parking level as well.
So that's something we would have missed without going down this.
No, you still would have had parking signage inside the parking ramp, but as you approach it, as you approach the parking ramp and all the other parking amenities, this proposal would be looking at coordinating not only the parking ramp sign, but with all the other parking, so it's all relatable.
Further discussion or a motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to thank you, Brandon, for putting this together. I think 4 months ago, we were talking about art, we were talking about sponsorship, advertising, signs, in a very disorganized kind of process. And so I think what my goal was to try and bring this under kind of a unified process that you guys would lead and kind of put your approval on. So I think, I really appreciate what you've put together here. I think with the update from Clear Channel and some other things we're going to hear today, I guess my thought, Mr. Chairman, is maybe we ought to just sit on this for now, figure out exactly what we need them to do going forward with the update on Clear Channel, et cetera. And then,
Your motion is to table?
well, I guess I would motion to move to table it. That's what you're looking for.
Motion is made to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded.
My thought, Mr. Chairman, is I think there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
And I think looking at all these key things today, there's some things that we can just coordinate a little bit different, and maybe the scope's not going to be quite as in-depth as originally thought and planned in this.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 11, receive update regarding preliminary site options for possible hotel and associated utilities plan. Now we need Tom Schaller. There he is, and Brandon. Okay, Tom, you're up.
Good morning, everybody. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. What you see on the screen is the plans that were originally submitted and planned for. What we did between the last meeting and this one is we met with McGough. We met with our design team, looked at some ways to take this area, reconfigure it in a manner that would allow flexibility for multiple types of hotel scenarios to occur on this side. In addition to that, look at the utilities that would have to be revamped to allow such flexibility. So I just want to run through those. We think we have a great solution, and working with McGough and everybody, we came up with some alternatives that I think work well. First one would be this, the hotel shown right here in the dark bold black is exactly the size of the Sioux Falls Hotel that's at the Sioux Falls Airport, the Aerostay. That would allow a drop-off zone right to the east of it. In addition to that, you would have some parking to the south of that. We also put some, because we're impacting parking, we looked at opportunities to expand parking. And these are just in a planning level discussion with the exception of the utilities. We have worked all the utilities so that those would be moved, allowing the project to go forward as planned for this fall with those revisions made, allowing for the complete flexibility in the future. The parking areas and things like this can all be changed and modified. We did look at those, separating some of the parking so that if an RFP went out for a hotel, there may be some opportunities to look at various parking configurations that would allow possible revenue improvements and things like that, and help with some of the parking options. This is option one that has the hotel, like I said, the Aerostay from Sioux Falls. The reason we run two is Aerostay has micro-sized rooms, so they're very narrow. So the facility itself is about 40 feet wide, as opposed if you look to a traditional Holiday Inn Express, Marriott Fairfield, My Place, any of those are running roughly about 60 feet wide. So this is one alternative, and the utilities that are running through all here have been addressed. In addition to that, we had the second alternative, which would have been a wider hotel footprint. All of these can both be expanded to the south. I should have told you that ahead of time, but this has a drop off to the south. Oops, excuse me. And has a way that you can swing in, drop off people at the hotel, some temporary parking for people that are going in and checking in. You'd also have some employee parking with the same. These alternatives both allow flexibility in the future to have that go forward. They don't impact any of the parking or the access as originally planned. They would have a walkway that would come on the north side of this building. And the exact details of this have not been fully fleshed out yet, but we're envisioning roughly a walkway on this north side. This berm that was originally planned with bushes, trees, and things like that would help shield part of the view of this so that it wouldn't be as much of an aesthetic impact. There's also things being looked at and discussed if this connector would maybe slope down into the ground a little bit to make it less visible. A lot of these options can be discussed in the future once you have a hotel RFP out and what those options would look at. But our primary goal of the exercise was to get the utilities relocated that would allow the maximum flexibility in the future to move forward with the hotel RFP. And those really are the two alternatives, the one that's shown right here, and then the one right here where you have the loop on this side for a more micro-sized width for the hotel. So right now I don't need any action taken, but I wanted to bounce these off of you, let you know what we're looking at. Again, working with McGough, the utility changes have been implemented. They're working out the final details on that, but those should be implemented this fall yet without any delays to the project. Any questions?
Dr. Bashani?
Tom, with the alternative with an entrance on the south end, is that in a sense you're going to enter through what would otherwise be an exit door, or does the front desk move to that south end?
We would have to work with any hotel proposing that we would envision that their hotel entrance lobby area would move to whatever side that entrance would be on.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, John?
Tom, the walkway, can that be inside the terminal? Does it have to be a separate outside structure?
We looked at those opportunities because the way the terminal is laid out in here and the security requirements, it would be very, very difficult at this time to move something like that inside of it. We did look at and are considering some alternatives where if we didn't need the parking on the left side of the screen, we could come out and run it up to the side of the building and run it along the edge of that. Again, this is one of those things that until you have a hotel on board and looking at what they want and kind of working those issues out, the exact layout wouldn't be known. Moving it inside of the building, we did look at that. And when you look at the secure areas and things that are currently inside of the terminal in those areas, it is not practical to put that in at this time.
What is inside the terminal there?
Back in this area, you have some baggage movement. You have, and I'd have to go back to the exact layout of the building. I think you have some mechanical rooms and utilities and things like that.
Yeah.
You come out to go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, sorry, Tom. I just to interject. Yeah, right where your mouse was, that's all mechanical room area, and then storage for the and then I think there's some Delta storage back there as well. And then, as you said, there's a lot of baggage and tug movement on the first floor.
That's that unique industrial look we all love. So paint it black and away you go.
Well, that's one of our goals is like I said, this berm right through here, which was already planned, has some elevation changes and things like that. We're looking at ways to minimize any kind of additional look through there that as you're looking on it arriving as a passenger, that you wouldn't see that. Walking through this area, yeah, would have a definite industrial feel and vibe, but that would also be a security issue and things like that from an operational and utilities if we start moving mechanical at this point in the game.
Further discussion, Rick?
Mr. Chairman, it might make sense to think about that walkway right along the side of the terminal, if not inside. You know, it looks like we have a gap there. You know, if there's a way to just on the other side, on the south side where your mouse is, yeah, right along there. Looks like there's a little gap between this walkway. Not on that side, lower.
You're talking, let me do this for you, Rick. Hold on.
Yeah, right in there. Again, it's the reality is no matter what we do, someone's going to want it different. So I just really appreciate you spending the time to really think through these things. And so we have a legitimate site plan for someone to look at and propose something to us. So thank you for that. Yeah, where you've got that walkway, I mean, if it could go along the terminal, the north wall of the walkway might be part of that terminal wall.
And we did look about that. When you move it over, here's some of the things. You'll lose all this parking space through here because you'll now cut it off. So that's certainly can be looked at. Well, that's one of the things we looked at and felt there would be an impact on your parking, which is fine. That can happen.
The other thing we talked about is going west of the parking lot that you have there now. There's quite a bit of room going west there to that fence, or excuse me, going east to the fence. So I think that might be a place for additional parking if we need additional parking.
Yeah, and I think these are all good things. Our goal was to make sure the utilities were such that would allow all of these options to go forward and be considered. So I think as we work through this with an RFP and the dust settles, we're anticipating with all the construction going on in this area that realistically an RFP would probably have to wait roughly 12 months, let the construction settle in this area, go out with an RFP, get a hotel developer on board, work with the details and come up with all of those items at that point in time. And so those are things we're looking at as well.
Tom, that's probably a good question. So I think the next step would be for us to, reach out to potential hotel people. And what are you saying? That if we're doing that, you think the timing should wait, or would it be something you would do?
I would wait for at least 6 to 12 months. And the reason being is you're going to have a lot of construction in this area for the terminal, for the parking garage, and all these things. And then go out with a RFP, bring on a hotel developer, tie that in. So realistically, you would probably be looking at starting construction on a hotel within 18 months to 24 months. We'd want to time it so that there's not conflict between the terminal build and the construction opportunities going on there and that hotel. That would also give you some time to look at where the finances are settling with all the different things going on, because there will be some inherent costs to the airport through some of this. We just want to make sure you have no conflict in construction, make sure you're comfortable with your financials. And at that point, we can work out the exact details on a walkway, where that would best fit and serve your needs. We can expand all these parking lots can be expanded, like you said, Rick, to the east, as we discussed. We're also talking with Sean a little bit about the airport leasehold with air traffic control. Make sure we don't encroach upon that, or if there's ever an opportunity to reconfigure that, to look at that opportunity. FAA leaseholds are sometimes pretty rigid to move, but those are also things that are in the mix of being looked at least.
Further discussion. Dr. Brishani?
Quick question, Tom. Both your scenarios are attractive to me for different reasons. Would it be unusual in an RFP to offer them both and see what's attractive to potential developers?
Yeah, my anticipation that we would leave an area and let them come in with their own proposals that fits their business models, and that they may come up with something we hadn't even thought about. We just want to make sure that the footprint gives them that max opportunity, so you get a solution that best serves them as well as best serves your opportunities. So that way everybody's winning in that battle. That's even like on the parking lots. These parking lots, we wanted to leave some flexibility, because it's not inconceivable that a hotel could come in and say, Airport Authority, we'd like to rent enough parking so that our premium customers are paying, $25-$30 a lot or spot right next to us, and that in turn your leasehold to that hotel is now expanded and you make more money. So we want to leave you those flexibilities. So my goal is not to come up with a rigid solution, but one that provides you the flexibility to look at what best serves the market at that time.
Perfect answer. Thank you.
Further discussion? If not, thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 12, receive proposal from Schatz and Associates regarding governance policy development and consider approval. Dr. Brishani and Mr. Berg.
Go ahead. I think Dr. Schatz has outlined a program that Rick and I would recommend to the airport authority. It probably is long overdue, and he has worked with a lot of public agencies that are very similar to us with similar pressures and demands on them. And so along those lines, I'd move for approval and contracting with Schatz and Associates for government policy development.
I'd second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Number 13, receive and approve change order number 4 for Northern Improvement Company associated with the NGA apron expansion project for an increase of $1,995.
All right, this one's pretty straightforward. Did all of you get a copy of this change order in your packet? I presume. There is, so Northern Improvement was a contractor for the apron expansion up by Fargo Jet Center, and part of that was to add a number of aircraft tie downs, and just the way the layout had worked out, one of the tie down points of one of the tie downs fell in the existing pavement. So what we need to do now is go in and core out like a 1-inch diameter hole in that pavement, and then place like a cast iron tie down and then pour the concrete back. And then the cost is $1,995. I should note that the price started at about $4,400, and I worked with Northern Improvement to drop that down to the basically the $2,000 mark. So
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 14, receive report from the sponsorship working group regarding Clear Channel Airport's discussion held on September 5 of 24. Discussion.
Well, I was pleasantly surprised by the flexibility of Clear Channel's showing extraordinary flexibility. As a matter of fact, very reasonable. He outlined, we walked through a lot of different scenarios, what ifs. I was very pleased with his answers to all of those, very reasonable. And I don't know that anything was even a hard line. No, we'd have to talk about that sort of thing. But I don't know if that reflects the conversation, Paula.
I was pleased that he basically just washed his hands of the sponsorship agreements. And I think that was one of our main concerns when we were trying to put together heightened amenities that we really required sponsorship. And so to have Clear Channel just say, you can have the sponsorship and we will not take any piece of that funding, I thought was really beneficial for the airport. Two other things that came up were the wallpaper and the walls. So where the wallpaper went in the previous sunflower wallpaper in the claim area, that is controlled by Clear Channel, as is floor space. And so one of my concerns with Clear Channel is that they have an awful lot of creative control when we actually employ a designer, Gina, with Maiden Hunt. And so I think there is a bit of a conflict there that I would love to resolve as we're discussing Clear Channel issues.
Anything that Clear Channel designs, the board approves. They don't have free reign, so they come up with a concept. This board approves everything that they propose.
Mr. Chair, so on my end, what I had done in my direction at the August 27 meeting was to have us get together on the 5th of September. So I updated the memo that I had previously provided at the previous meeting. Since that September 5th meeting, Sean and myself and Thaddeus and their attorney have started. I was first up to put together a proposed memorandum of understanding. And then provided that to Clear Channel, and they came back with a red line. We had a discussion yesterday, about their reasons for the red lines. And then later yesterday afternoon, I went back to him with my red line. So it's kind of a document going back and forth, but we want to bring it to the two of you when it's like that. Yes, Sean and I feel like we have what we deem to be agreed upon by the parties. So then put it in your hands and you can say, yes, this is what we as a working group agreed to.
And can we see a track change version of it as well as a clean version so we know where the conversation went?
Sure. I can turn
Rick.
it down.
So are you doing a memorandum of understanding or are you redoing the lease agreement?
Memorandum of understanding.
I guess my question, Mr. Chairman, is I don't think we need to do anything, do we? I mean, I think where we are, there's a few things here that need to be kind of fleshed out. And I think, like we talked about 2 months ago, they want to be a good business partner with us and we want to be a good partner with them. Once we, again, had this meeting last week, it was clear they want to work with us and everything. Now, I think, I'm just saying there's no rush to put this memorandum together, in my opinion.
So I will say two things. Number one, I guess from my perspective and Clear Channel's perspective, obviously the memorandum of understanding it's good for the paper that it's on, but at least then the intentions of the parties are on paper, because there'll be a point where none of us are here. And so understanding that it's not a change to the contract, it clarifies the parties have separate views on some of the definitions in the contract. So we created this hybrid memorandum to try to work through them so airport's happy, Clear Channel's happy.
Or just shorten the term to 2 years versus 10. I'm just saying everything changes here and we got a lot of things that are going on. So I don't want to go ahead and do that, but I think it's more important that we have a good working relationship with them than spend a lot of money and time putting some sort of legal contract together that may not cover everything that needs to be covered until we finish this remodeling. That's my only concern.
So I think the perspective was, let's figure out, because many months have gone on where there was some sort of harder line positions by the airport and Clear Channel. So let's just try to figure out something where we can move forward with a working relationship. So that was, I guess, the intent. And it's not been.
We've resolved that on sponsorships.
Correct.
Okay.
But the caveat there is they hold the position that the contract includes sponsorships. This board doesn't hold that position.
Well, I would say my primary concern, Mr. Chairman, is I think for this interior look, I'm very concerned about it. And I want to make sure that we have one person, I think that's Gina and Mead and Hunt, to make sure that this looks attractive from the time someone comes in the terminal till they leave. And so, again, just if there's a conflict between who decides what's on every wall, I think that should be something that is not driven by the advertiser, it's driven by the interior design person. So that's my only concern. When I look at this memorandum, I don't know if it'll cover everything, but
it mainly relates to the idea of the sponsorships. So, and that with that issue, I'm sort of speaking outside of, my purview of knowledge, that I thought that through Brandon, there was like a working group with Clear Channel, Gina, et cetera, to do all that work inside the terminal.
So just for instance, this is what was sent out from Gina and Brandon and Mead and Hunt, and this is a view of the baggage claim, but it does not include any implement items. And so if we have an opportunity to do a new memorandum of understanding, I think it would be good to address some of those items that it seems like Mead and Hunt and Clear Channel are not in agreement.
So I guess my view was let us get to what we deem to be an appropriate proposed memorandum for you as the working group to put your hands on, and then add your comments and suggestions to it.
What you're saying is because the concept drawing they provided doesn't show pontoon and bobcat, that's not their plans. I think they probably just forgot about it.
I'm just saying that there's a difference in maybe the vision.
Brandon, did you intend to leave those things out?
You mean as far as like the construction displays, the skid steers, the pontoons, those kind of things that are throughout the terminal? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah. Yeah, we didn't anticipate, obviously from our perspective, that does disrupt the look of the terminal. So I mean, asking us for our preference, I mean, we would probably request something a little less obtrusive, but yeah, as far as like what Clear Channel plans to put like in the middle of the baggage terminals for advertising, that is between the airport and Clear Channel, and we can't control that.
I was just surprised that they had the wallpaper, like not just the screens, but also the wallpaper behind the screens and then floor space as well. So it seems like they've got a lot of creative control when it comes to the airport. And yet we've got Gina trying to put this whole airport together in a cohesive manner. So it seems like
yeah,
an overlap of responsibilities.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. So Clear Channel, they've established the wall spaces that they have control over. They have been, and I use the word control, but they've been pretty open about suggestions. If we talk about, we've talked about like themes and coordinating with the design, and they seemed really open to it. So I don't think they're locked into like doing anything specifically or targeting a specific business. If we wanted something like, as you said, like the sunflowers on the wall, I think they would be really open to whatever advisement or recommendations we gave them.
They will put whatever the board wants.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Will not stand in the way. If the board says to put a sunflower down there, a case tractor, an RDO, they will put it there.
Yeah, I think we're using the wrong word. They don't own it. Clear Channel doesn't own it. We're the ones that own it. We're the ones that approve
This board
it.
approves it.
It's just they have responsibility for something, doesn't mean they own it or make decisions about it.
Rick?
Big deal.
Well, I think this is an important thing because just a few earlier in this meeting, we wanted Mead and Hunt to look at all of this stuff and make sure the look is right. And so I think I'm concerned about Clear Channel not, and I agree with everyone here. I think Clear Channel will be cooperative and do whatever, but I really look to this terminal expansion. I look to Gina, Brandon, and Mead and Hunt in giving us a recommendation. Now, we can make the final decision, but if I'm an advertiser, I want to make as much money as I possibly can. And, I think we have to balance that out with, just the look and the experience with people coming through. So, I mean, from my perspective, I would like, if it's coming from Clear Channel, what they're going to do, I would like Mead and Hunt to weigh in on those proposals. I'd like Clear Channel to go through them with you before they come to the board. So we have that working relationship with them.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be happy to do that. That was a kind of part of the wayfinding coordination proposal. getting into what your advertiser is going to be putting in. We don't typically get into that level of detail, but that was anticipated as part of our proposal. Something to consider if we're looking at that proposal and if there's things that you want to pare down that proposal or remove some of the responsibility, we can do that. But certainly something to consider as we're as you evaluate that proposal.
Any further discussion? Yep, John.
Stacy, on your MOU is non-binding.
Correct.
It's not going to amend the legal document. I'm just sort of wanting suspenders on with a belt here that if all of a sudden we had a $5 million sponsor, can Clear Channel then revert to the contract and say that's part of us? We have a claim to a portion of that, because we're going to, after this discussion, I think with sponsors, we're going to have to really assure them that there isn't this dilution of their gift or their sponsorship.
So, and that's something that I think that when the proposed MOU comes out for discussion, needs to likely be discussed further. Sort of the difficult definition was a small sponsorship. Clear Channel made it clear, wouldn't even attempt to touch that. But something much larger, that there would have to be a discussion about that.
We're talking signage, though, small sign versus large sign.
Right.
Not the value of the sponsorship. They don't care what the value of the sponsorship is. It's the size of the display of the sign.
No,
Nothing to do with
it's
the
just, we might as well deal with it now rather than, it's not going to come into play on a small sponsorship. It's going to come into play on a large sponsorship. And
not the dollar value. We're talking the sign, what they get for exposure in the sign. It has nothing to do with the dollar value, period. It's the size of the sign.
Well, again, is that in the memorandum or
That's what they're
amending
working on.
the contract? Because if it's just in the memorandum, they can always revert the contract language and say, no, that's we get 67% of that. And all I want to make sure is that if we're just doing a memorandum of understanding, non-binding, that we also look at the critical issue here, which is.
And I think this is why we've gotten here. As I said before, the airport took the stance that agreement with Clear Channel does not include sponsorships. They take the position it does. And so are we staring down buying their contract out or being sued for breach of contract? And that's where I wanted to work. And I think Thaddeus has been awesome at that, trying to work to some sort of agreement that everyone can live with, just much like the airport in the city of Fargo did with the MOU regarding that relationship. It's not binding, but is it keep us away from potential litigation related to that contract?
Well, let's just clearly understand
Correct.
that the MOU does not remove the possibility of a claim for sponsorship.
Dr. Bashani.
And I absolutely recognize what John's saying, but I also don't want to play chicken over a hypothetical that's unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
He's been very flexible, more than I could even imagine. And we ran through a lot of different scenarios. And the MOU's a good positive step forward. If we had that scenario, we're back in the playing chicken, but cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, and perhaps we can stipulate understanding of a little more than just we'll know it if we see it.
Oh, I don't disagree at all. So what Glenn, his attorneys, Sean and myself have tried to do is we've gone back and forth with drafts to figure out if we could come to an agreement on what this draft looks like and then bring it here since they were in the meeting to see their thoughts. Yes, this is exactly what I understood came out of the meeting, or, I thought we had this, and then bring the draft.
At the end of the day, if we don't collectively agree to the draft, doesn't agree to.
Good.
So it's a work in progress, especially with that meeting being just last Thursday.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, Mr. Berg, I agree with you that a 10-year contract is a very long contract. And especially when our airport is going through so many changes, and that contract was initiated before we were going through this contract. So I think the board as general needs to be far more cautious in the future about signing contracts that are such an extended period of time. And when we have a contract that is so long, it breeds complacency from our vendors.
Any further discussion? If not, let's move on to number 15, receive and approve LED lighting proposal from Ideal Energy for East Side Terminal Hangar 3 and Hangar 4 for the amount of $44,525.
So Ideal Energy came to us, I don't know if it was through Excel, Darren, or where, but they came to us to go through some of the buildings and identify where we can have a savings. And if you look at the rate of return on this, it's pretty incredible. Internal rate of return of 55.59% for the East Terminal. They do assist with putting together the grant. It's a state or federal grant for this that's out there. And they'll upgrade these lights. I mean, the savings in the hangars alone are pretty significant as well. So I don't know if you have any other questions on it, but it just seems like it's the right thing to do for some energy savings.
Move approved.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Shawnee, Berg,
Aye.
Cosgrove,
Aye.
Ekman,
Aye.
Templeton.
Aye. Number 16, receive proposed changes to the Airport Authority bylaws.
So I think one of the August meetings, Dr. Prashani brought up looking at having one regular meeting of the Airport Authority versus two, one on the 2nd and one on the 4th Tuesday of each month. So my modification, section 2, I've highlighted what the proposed motion would be for, to meet once a month with the board choosing first, second, third, fourth Tuesday or whatever day. And then the other thing that Sean had me include is that attendance, virtual attendance specifically does constitute attendance for purposes of being here. So I did that. Those were the only two proposed changes I made.
Consent agenda.
Oh, sorry. And to add, Mr. Cosgrove wanted a consent agenda. And there was nothing in the bylaws that said we couldn't do it, so I just simply added it.
So, Mr. Chairman, these are total bylaws, these 3 pages? That's it? I think this is good. My only question is, do we want to pin this down that we're meeting at 8 o'clock on Tuesday? I mean, we talked about maybe there's a different time on a monthly meeting that we better meet with. So I was just saying, do we need something? Can we just say that we're having a monthly meeting? Do we have to define it as 8 o'clock for a second, third, or fourth Tuesday?
I think for publication purposes and uniformity, I'm not saying you can't, but I would think you'd want to be specifying, but you also have the ability to change that too.
I mean, the current bylaws say the 2nd and 4th Tuesday at 8 a.m., but there's many times where the board has said, well, that we don't have a quorum, or someone's traveling, or we'll meet on the 3rd Tuesday. So you always have that flexibility.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying if we can just adopt this, but I think when we go through this governance too, we'll have other things in how we operate that we'll need to revisit these bylaws. But anyway.
Yeah, bylaws could be just shall meet at least once a month.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I have a concern. So Oliver, oftentimes when we're on the pre-con calls, and you'll say, or Joel will say, we're waiting for approval on Tuesday. So while we're in the midst of construction, is it a problem to go down to one meeting a month when you're waiting for board directives or board approvals?
It's a concern of mine, but I'm not gonna stop you guys from changing your bylaws. I think work out with me myself and John. Proceeding on things that are hot items that we need approval on, and then getting formal approval at board meetings once a month. We have a special meeting. guess I don't have much to add other than we have a few more GMPs coming. Two for the terminal and one more for the ramp. That would be a concern, but I think we just have to adjust our schedule and be ready. You guys are gonna have a board meeting or work through it with Sean to figure out a way forward.
So if there was something that you needed an approval on in a timely manner and didn't want to wait a month, could it be done via email or?
The chair can,
Yeah.
the chair can set up a special meeting.
It's in section
At
3.
any
Special
time.
meetings be called anytime or we can many times over here.
Okay, I just wouldn't want a change in the bylaws to adversely affect your timeline.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So that's a request of 2 members you call a meeting.
Pardon?
It says here under the special meeting, upon the written request of 2 members, you call a special meeting.
You need,
So when you
need
deem
3, we need
Yeah,
to
so
be
it
a
would-
quorum, you need 3.
So it would be you, Mr. Chair, and then 2 members. So you-
Yeah.
Correct.
Just to make sure 3 members are there for a quorum. That's why it says that.
And just for trivia's sake, and Paul said this, but kind of we lost it. Can that be done electronically?
I believe so.
Yep.
I mean, I think there's business that's already transacted.
You could have a meeting through
That would make it a lot faster. for
Teams
Joe's
or
sake.
whatever, yeah.
You need an answer, we can have it tomorrow.
Still need 24 hours notice though, right?
Correct.
But am I reading this right, Stacy? A number 3 special meeting, where the chair can call a meeting whenever they want. Or 2 members of the board can call a special meeting.
Correct.
So it's not necessarily a quorum has to call a meeting.
No.
Chairman or 2 members could.
Right.
Yes. Calling the meeting doesn't have to have a quorum. Voting on something brought before the board. Yep, correct. Needs a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, discussion.
What day do you want? What day do you want to have in your second Tuesday, third? Do you want to just say once a month or?
Why does
We say once a month and at a date and time set by the board.
Okay, I misunderstood. Do you want to take the Tuesday at 8 o'clock out?
No, Tuesday at 8, is that when do you want to do it the second, third, or fourth Tuesday?
Well, that's what our bylaws say. I don't know. Figure it out.
It's kind of important for staff to know and contractors, how we set up our bid schedule and stuff.
Second Tuesday of the month.
4th.
I will not take those as friendly amendments. Second Tuesday of the month.
I would say staff, you should figure that out, send out a memo, and people can't make it, we can change it, but, I mean, right now, we're on the 2nd and 4th, correct? So we'll just go to the 2nd? So let's have it 2nd of October.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if people can't make it, then we don't have a quorum, move it to another Tuesday.
Okay,
And then, Mr. Chairman, with these changes of the bylaws, then I assume we'll be having more committees outside of the regular meeting that will then report to the board. Is that what?
Necessarily, that's up to
not
the board.
necessarily, no.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would say that in talking with Dr. Schatz, that's something that we'll work through and will come out of that.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can predict what that will be, but I think a lot of what we're struggling with as a board is not enough background and involvement prior to things hitting our agenda. So I believe that we'll end up having a little more involvement by board members between meetings on these issues. And we'll have to make sure that we're disclosing it and open records and et cetera like that. But I think that'll be maybe one of the recommendations that comes out.
Okay. I just don't want to make a premature decision prior to some of those governance changes being implemented.
On the bylaws, you mean? I think this bylaws is just going to a monthly meeting. I think we'll probably have a number of changes on these that we'll all agree to when we get through the governance.
Okay. And I would like to caution all members of the board that if you're emailing 2 or 3 members of the board and conversing airport business, you may be in violation of the open meetings law. So if you're gonna talk to somebody, make sure you don't talk to a quorum.
So one email is okay, two email recipients, not okay.
Well, 3 makes the quorum. So if you want to talk to me, that's fine. But if you include John or Dr. Bashani, then you're in violation of the open meetings law.
Okay.
Just in case somebody,
I think it's even if you're meeting with one of us.
pardon?
Well, so that's sort of the hybrid there,
We'll figure it out.
is if you have an appointed subcommittee and it's 2 meeting, that's a committee of 2, there's a quorum. So that's kind of the hybrid. If there's 3 of you non-committee people, but on this board communicating, that's a quorum. If it's 2 of you, not a member of a committee, no quorum. So you get that subcommittee with 2 members, now you're dealing with.
So like if
So
you,
can you clarify that one more time? So one person can email one person cannot email 2 people.
When there's not the existence of a subcommittee that's been appointed by the board. If there is a subcommittee, then you've got 2 people that constitutes a quorum of the subcommittee. Then you've got an open record. It's sort of a hybrid of the issue. I can sure put a little memo together and shoot it out, just to be more clarifying.
But I think we've got that figured out. And I think that's a little confusion this last week. You know, we met with Dr. Schatz, and so Joan sent out the email to let the press know that we've got this governance meeting.
Mhm.
And so that wasn't necessarily that, I mean, everyone could come, they didn't have to, but I think we have to get through the governance first. I think you'll see more notifications of meetings like that governance meeting, which again, just open record and keep notes on it. So I think we'll work through that.
So can I email Jim?
yeah, because I'm not on any committee yet.
Okay.
But like you and Dr. Bashani are on a committee, so when you 2 are talking, that you have to let the press know about that because you are a committee and that constitutes a quorum, right?
Well, what I would say about that is that, like, when we had the subcommittee working meeting, Joan gave notice. If a person from the public wanted to know when you have this quorum, a request for open records, they would be entitled, unless protected by work product, attorney-client privilege, me being involved, those would be
Right.
have to be given over.
Yeah.
So there's no notice if they're emailing back and forth. It would be if someone from the public came in and said, I want to see what the subcommittee has been chatting about. Does that answer it?
Sort of. So if I emailed Dr. Bashani about something that didn't have anything to do with Clear Channel, is that also open meeting?
If you're talking about if it's a subcommittee you're on,
Mhm.
yes. If it's not, and it's just general airport business, no.
Okay.
Okay, clear as mud.
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, that's right. We got we have a motion and a second, I
Yes.
believe.
And those, yes.
And I want a roll call on this.
Shawnee.
Yes.
Bird.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Number 17, authorize attendance of the Great Lakes AAA Airports Conference and the Takeoff Air Service Conference and the G1 SCBA testing in December and the Air Show Conference in December and the AAA Annual Aviation Issues. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Are these trips we were on last year? Same.
Pardon?
These are the same events.
This is just for basically staff.
Andrew, they're similar. I don't know if the fire department did the SCBA testing one. We have to have someone certified. That might be a new one. They do that every week. Is that a new one this year, Darren?
Why is the one just registrational?
Because the AAA board pays the rest of my hotel and airfare.
Okay.
On the national board.
All in, there's a motion been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 18, old business.
Mr. Chairman, I have old business. I am attending the airport, mid-size airport conference hosted by the Quotient Group tomorrow. So if anybody has any questions or comments or information that you would like me to inquire or do some research on, please email me.
And is this the one that's in North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay. Any other old business?
Dr. Rashani, did you want to discuss the email?
Yeah, I was going to discuss the email, the poster presenting ourselves with email contact, and I made the unfortunate mistake of thinking about it too hard and come up with all sorts of complications with listing emails for each of us, which has then triggered a concern I have that I want to think about more. So I'm going to ask that we table that to the next meeting so I can make a recommendation to the board.
Okay.
Consultation with you.
All right. So the only other thing is August was the busiest month in history since 1931, outdid July. So August is typically one of our slowest months, along with September. So we had just almost 49,000 boardings, which is unheard of. So wow, we're heading in the right direction. And the takeoff conference that I'll be at in Green Bay. So the scheduled meetings, I've requested all the meetings yesterday with Sun Country, Breeze, Delta, United, American. Frontier doesn't attend it. Allegiant doesn't attend because we'll be at the Allegiant conference in October. But there's a lot of interest there to do the speed dating with the network planners again. And they're working on their summer schedules. Some of the summer schedules have come out through about the June timeframe, and we'll be talking about July and beyond for 2025 for schedules.
One thing was, so one of the things that we had is we were tracking the leakage of the people that drive to Minneapolis and fly rather than out of Fargo. We talked about that last winter. I thought that would be a great measure for Flint to see if we're, increasing the number of people that fly out of this area. And so at the time, they said every quarter they would update us, and they haven't. And I'm just, I don't know, it was the one thing that I thought clearly would show if they're really getting more people fly out of Fargo, that would be important. So
Mr. Lum did respond to your inquiry.
Right.
The new data is out, so you all got the second quarter data from the DOT. So they have a program. There's only one airport out of the 100-some that they work with that gets quarterly data. They charge $4,000 a quarter or $17,000 a year.
Mr. Chairman, that's not what they told us last winter. I think, well, I guess what I would encourage you to go back and look at that because, and then I just think some of these metrics are important for us to know going forward. And I just feel like that's a really important one. And it's just kind of.
Well, that is the fee. I mean, we'd be the second airport out of all their clients to do it quarterly. Most of the airports are doing it once every 2 years to get leakage, but it's up to you. That's what the cost is.
Well, that's one of our goals. We need to have the metric to.
What is our leakage? What is the metrics right now?
Well, just based on the last report was about 24% to Minneapolis. If I recall correctly. Does that sound right? 24 was a little bit less than that?
Yeah, it was.
We should know that.
I think the number prior to that was 31%. So we've dropped down to 24% now.
The problem with getting the quarterly, as Mike explained, is that you get the seasonal trends where if you do it on an annual basis, then the seasonal trends and everything are all, I guess, ironed out in that report.
But don't get me wrong, I don't really care when we get it, but I think that's a really important measurement and we should be on top of that. So I guess I'm just saying, do I want to spend more money? No. But I think we should know when they're doing that, and that should be something that ties in with their advertising. And so Flint's concerned about that too.
And they get that, and I think if they still concentrate on the counties that were in the last leakage report, it's really not going to change much quarter over quarter, maybe year over year.
And I'm fine with that, but we should figure out what's a legitimate measure and when we measure, and so we have that coordinated.
They recommend no sooner than annual.
The other thing I'd like to know is we always show how busy we are. you know, and you talked about August being a great month right now. I wish we could, a lot of that information gets emailed to us. I would like us to track that every month. And so we know in a little, we can see the trends. It just,
Have it back to the 1950s. So yeah, I mean, Darren's got all the stats and stuff. They're online, but we can get it out to the
well,
board as well.
I'm just saying it could be simple to look at. We should be able to know in 5 seconds where we're at. And I've always struggled every month. Anyway, I move we adjourn.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Jeez. Motion